Hi everyone, welcome back. Now I was meant to get this video out probably 2 weeks ago, but with TU 15.1 we had the patch notes for that, we've had the PC crash issue, we've had the conflict issue yesterday, which is basically wiping your expertise levels, and loads of other stuff. I've not been able to get around to actually finishing this video, so here we go, finally. Now since Season 9 came out and the Heartbreaker gear set was added to the game, it's quickly became the most hotly debated addition. That being, is this new gear set too powerful? Does it need a nerf? And if it does, what needs to change? Or is it perfectly fine the way that it is? Now I've seen a ton of opinions on this topic, I've seen videos on this topic, and I just wanted to add my own here. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let's jump into this one. Alright, so first and foremost, Heartbreaker is without doubt one of the strongest, if not the strongest gear sets in the game right now, offering an incredible amount of damage and survivability. Now there's a reason that the majority of build videos you are seeing from content creators, including myself, and in most content, PvE content that you're playing right now, incorporates this kind of gear set. With that in mind, I've got no doubt in my mind that Massive will do something to change this gear set at some point, whether that be to nerf the values or to change the function of how it works. But I don't agree, and based on the community poll that I put out some time ago, the majority of you don't either. So if you take a look at the poll that I put out, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, a week or so ago, an overwhelming 85% of you don't believe the Heartbreaker gear set should be nerfed, from 2,000 votes. So this isn't a small amount of people, this is quite a significant portion of the community voting here. And as I've said, I tend to agree, and I do want to explain why to those people who feel as though a nerf should happen. So firstly, and I think most importantly for me, the Heartbreaker gear set should not just be judged on its numbers, because that is just one factor, a major factor, there's no doubt about that, but it is just one factor that makes up the power and viability of any gear set or build. If you've been watching me for some time, then you would have noticed pre-TU 15 that almost all of my gameplay footage included me running my trusty skill build, the build that I've been running for nearly 2 years now. I've seen all of the comments from you guys asking me to use something else, but that build that I've been using is so effective against heroic content that I've just stuck with it. Plus, I'm a lazy player, and that build makes you feel that way. That's how strong that build is. Now, I didn't need to think about this for too long, but the Heartbreaker gear set and build potential now available with this gear set, I basically asked myself one simple question when I was thinking about whether it should be nerfed or not, and it was, do I feel safer and more powerful, more effective using my trusty skill build that I've had for 2 years, or the new Heartbreaker gear set and a build surrounding that, playing heroic content, the content I've been playing for the longest time? And quite simply, the skill build wins every single time. There's no doubt about it. Sure, you know, it is a very lazy build. A lot of you guys would probably agree with that, but there's no disputing how easy it makes heroic content. Something I found the Heartbreaker build just cannot do with the same effectiveness. With Heartbreaker, you have to build stacks, you have to maintain those stacks and ensure that you're doing that on a consistent basis. Otherwise, in heroic content, with a vast amount of NPCs, you are going to run into trouble, especially as a solo player when all eyes are on you. So with my skill build, I don't need to do any of that. You know, I can sit in cover, throw my skills up, shoot NPCs from a distance, and for the majority of the time, 95% of the time or more, I don't even need to move. And I rarely take any kind of damage myself. It's such a lazy build because it's so powerful. I really have to do nothing as a player myself. It's just easy mode. And that's just not something Heartbreaker can beat for me. I've tried Heartbreaker and Heroic, and yeah, sure, if you get your stacks up and you maintain those stacks, which, let's be honest guys, getting the stacks up on Heartbreaker is easy, and it's something I'll discuss in a little while. But getting those up, maintaining those stacks while surrounded by NPCs all firing at you, it's not really easy to keep yourself alive. You will find that there are going to be times that you need to take cover. And plus, you know, you have to be good at using that build. So that's not something that my skill build requires of me. So for me, that alone it screams that the Heartbreaker shouldn't really be nerfed in PvE, because there are better builds out there for both solo players and team composition. My trusty skill build being a very good example of that. And talking of team play, and apologies, but I'm rarely playing a team, so my knowledge is limited. But from what I've seen, Heartbreaker isn't replacing builds in team compositions that were previously destroying legendary content. So if it's not replacing builds that are in team composition, you don't have teams all running Heartbreakers to do legendary content now. They don't need to, because they've got team compositions that worked better before. So it's not replacing those, and it's also not replacing, for me personally, it's not replacing my skill build. So why does it need to be nerfed? So moving on then, let's look at the argument for Heartbreaker being nerfed or changed in some way. There were 99 comments to my poll, so I've had a look through at some of the comments in support of a nerf. Now the top comment was that it should be nerfed, but for only PvP. I cannot comment on this as I don't play PvP, so for anyone who does, tell me why in the comment section down below it should be nerfed in PvP. I can probably guess why, because you get a lot of damage and a lot of survivability, and it kind of can do everything. So I can understand that, but if you could be more specific, that would be great. Now there was one comment, a great comment, that I wanted to share here, and makes a very good point as to why Heartbreaker should be nerfed. So here's the comment. Let's go over it here. It says, saying that it shouldn't get nerfed is asinine and ignorant of the facts. The set does a whopping 170% amplified damage at 4 stacks with the chest piece. So that's the chest piece gives you that extra 50 stacks. I have tested this for myself. For comparison, Strikers is 89%. If you count the rate of fire, Negotiator is 120% with the backpack, but only while 3 targets are marked. Not only is it the highest damage set in the game, but it also has some of the best survivability in the game. Basically, a free bonus armor unbreakable, and also 4% bonus armor regen with the backpack. GTFO of here with the buffs, not nerfs, silliness. You literally have to buff every other gear item in the game to a ridiculous level to balance it. The devs will never and should never do this. As someone said on another post, that will be like spinning your house to screw in a light bulb. It doesn't make any sense. Now, when you look at the raw numbers, as stated in this post here, and compare it to the other sets in the game, there is absolutely no doubt the Heartbreaker exceeds them all by quite a huge margin. And I totally agree with the argument that we shouldn't just buff everything else up to a crazy level. That does make no sense, and only serves to vastly accelerate the power creep. There's a reason why, not just in Division, but in most looter shooter games, they don't just buff everything up to the highest level, they nerf stuff down, because power creep becomes a real problem. It's already a problem in this game, and you don't want to make it even worse than it already is. So based on those figures, does it need to be nerfed? Because that is a pretty convincing argument when you read it like that. Now, as I've said before, personally, I found other builds much easier to use, and as a result, I felt more powerful and effective in combat. So I still don't agree that it should be nerfed. If you base it on the numbers alone, sure, yeah, it should be nerfed because it is just way better than everything else. But to me, it's not just about the numbers. It's about how you get to that number, and how effective it actually is. Because some stuff you could have sniper builds, for example, that do millions and millions and millions of damage, hundreds of millions of damage in the game. And you look at those for numbers and you say, well, they should be nerfed. Well, no, they shouldn't, because they require a lot of skill to be used most of the time. And if you're surrounded by 8 NPCs and you've got a sniper, you're going to be in trouble. So it really depends on how good it is actually in play and how comfortable you're with using that particular build. With that said, I've seen the argument that the biggest issue right now is how easy it is to get the stacks up and maintain those stacks, with the ACS-12 shotgun being the main culprit. The recommended fix is to allow only assault rifles to gain the stacks required for Heartbreaker. Now, this is something I could get on board with if Massive went in this direction, and what I believe they might do as well. I'd be very surprised if they really did much to nerf it in terms of the values, because based on the poll that I put out, a lot of people would not be very happy about that. And Massive right now, they really need a win. They don't need more negative kind of feedback. It's not just that the Heartbreaker gear set is powerful, but it's how easy it is to get the full power and stay there. And you know what? This is why I was surprised Massive chose to buff the Heartbreaker or the Heartstopper talent during the PTS. If you remember, the Heartstopper talent used to allow only stacks for 5 seconds every time you hit an enemy with a headshot. This was removed, and now you just lose 2 stacks every second, which has made it vastly more powerful. Now, it probably did need some adjustments in the PTS. A lot of people said it should maybe be 10 seconds before the loss of the stacks, which is something I kind of agreed with at the time. I felt that would be more balanced, but Massive have gone a different direction, and as a result, I do feel as though, as you've seen from the numbers, in terms of a numbers output, yeah, the Heartbreaker exceeds pretty much every other gear set and pretty much every other build in terms of damage output there is at the moment. All in all then, I can get on board with assault rifles only being able to make the stacks, as this makes the gear set harder to use rather than limiting its power. And I think ultimately that if they're going to go in any direction, that's the direction they need to go in, right? They need to make it more difficult to get to that amount of power, because if you've got that amount of power, it needs to be hard to get there. And I can also understand that in comparison to other gear sets, Heartbreaker is far superior, but if I'm playing heroic content and wanting the easiest time possible, I'm not picking a Heartbreaker build. I'm sticking with my trusty skill build. So with that in mind, I'm completely fine with it staying the way that it is currently. And so, yeah, if I had to say, should it be nerfed or not? No, I don't think so. If they did nerf it, would I be unhappy? Not really, because, I mean, you know, it is powerful. And I'm using other stuff. There is stuff that's more powerful than it in the game, in my opinion, and easier to use. So I can just go back to that. It doesn't bother me that much. But I hope they don't nerf it for the sake of all the people that do love using it. Don't get me wrong, I love using it. It feels great. It feels like you're just a walking tank, but doing a ton of damage. It feels great. And in the PvE environment, I'm completely okay with that. If they change it so that, you know, it only takes assault rifle bullets, I think that's probably the best way to go. Changing the functionality of it rather than the actual the values of it, and changing the power. But thanks very much for watching. That was all I've got to say. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe to stay up to date with all my Division content, and of course make sure your notifications are turned on to never miss a video. Until the next one, Epic out.